Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Up All Night event, in which a Spirit of Luck is added to the game. So this week we have a good handful of things going on. We have the Magical Beast event, which ends up adding a new legendary, a new pet to go with it, as well as I believe the second time we've had to go get a power orb ever since, or guarantee power orb, ever since the Maelstrom Dagannoth was added to Soulforge. So if you've still been needing another one of those, you'll be able to get that from that brown event. We also have Blue Tower of Doom, and we also have double of a faction. I think this is the third time this has ever happened, but we actually have the faction event for Quarter Foxes both on this Tuesday and on Friday, so it'll end up double dipping. We're also still supposed to be getting a patch this month, which, if that was to still occur this Tuesday or the following Tuesday, or the two most likely dates, with next week's Tuesday probably being the more likely date as far as the two. But, yeah, non-zero chance we get one this week, so we'll have to wait and see, but it's probably going to be next week's Tuesday. And, yeah, that's pretty much everything. So, let's start from the top and go with the brown magic event. So, of course, we have the Magical Beast event, rolls around about every single time this year. We have to specifically use brown for this one. It is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is simply spend 50 gems per day if you want to get absolutely all the rewards, or you can simply just do the free battles. And in doing so, this will be enough to get all the ones that are relevant. The main ones being the Owlbear Armor, if you haven't gotten it from a previous season, though this returns every single year. The new Legendary Troop, which will be in the drop table a couple months from now. However, if you want to get it early, it's okay. It's very really similar to the one Legend and Warrens, where it gives a bunch of positive stats effects to your allies while doing a bunch of damage to all enemies. Overall, not the greatest. It does have an interesting final trait, though, creating an Umbral Star every extra turn, which is the main thing that's pretty much carrying it, because otherwise it's pretty average. Beyond that, we also have the pet that will, of course, give it +5 to all stats, as well as if you buy this at least 6 times, which is 700 total points, you would end up getting the golden version, which is a cosmetic one that so far they've never returned for anything other than money. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, the power orb, main thing that's relevant about this power orb, it's pretty much the cheapest you could ever get it. If you ignore a lot of the other rewards, you can get it literally for free just by doing the free battles, or if you're getting pretty much everything, or do about 50 gems per day, and you'll be able to go and get it, which of course would go to the Maelstrom Dagannoth, as is pretty much the best one of the new power orb mythics to end up using. And since this thing is still somewhat fresh, if you still end up needing those few power orbs, you can get one of those from this current event to work towards the 8 that you need to eventually go and craft yourself one, as it's a really great troop to get, and of all the 8 power orb troops, it's probably the best one to be getting first, as it is the strongest of the 4 that we have as options. But yeah, event plays out the same as it always would. You just do your 3 to 6 battles per day. Just always go and upgrade it whenever it gives you an option. Every, I believe, 5 battles, it gives you an option to upgrade them to be harder. Keep doing that as long as you can, keep doing it. If you are earlier in the game, you might reach a point where you have to stop making them harder, but later in the game, you will generally be able to make it harder every single time and easily be able to go get all the rewards. It is advised to do so, as you do get more points as they get higher difficulty. But otherwise, just take any one of these, go use whatever your pure brown team is, and you'll be good to go. Speaking of which, let's go over all the teams. So, of course, we have quite a few events. We have Blue Doom this week. We have that. We have still the standard Underspire. We have double dipping of the faction event. So let's go through them real quick. So Doom, of course, Doom I didn't actually go over here, but it plays the same as always. Make sure to use the weapon. You get double score. You end up getting this for 500 gems. While this is a little bit pricey for a weekly event, it is highly advised to do so, as having to get the item in the future is pretty expensive from Soulforge. So be able to get it for 500 gems while be able to help your guild is highly advised. But basically just report back to your guild where all of the better rooms are. It is the same across your entire guild. Not from guild to guild, but within your own guild, all the battles are exactly the same. So you want to be sharing where the unlock room is, where the fireball is, heroism, anything else that your guild wants to share as far as useful rooms. Then you go take out the Doom battle and just keep rinse and repeating all the way until floor 25th completion. You can go a little bit further if you want, but floor 25 completion is all the way to floor 26. Ends up giving you an extra forge scroll, which is about half the amount you need to go and upgrade a weapon on top of all the other ones that you get throughout the rewards system. So definitely make sure to be doing that throughout the week. As far as the teams for it, we have ourselves, of course, pure blue teams. We do have to use this weapon in order to go get double score. Beyond that, for the higher rarity team, we're basically just using a quick kill flower dragon. You could do the same exact build with Stellarix if you happen to not have the Crusathornax. But we're just running a Empower into yellow with the Empower Dragon. We're running Essentia for the 50% mana start into it. Running a Pure Dragon team, which ends up giving us a little bit of extra stats, but most notably a little bit extra magic. and we're just running that for a quick kill on whatever your best dragon is. You could also do this with Diamantina if you happen to not have either of the other ones, but ideally Stellarix or Flower Dragon. You could also just replace out for a damage source here. Of course, go for just some power into a hefty damage source, which is somewhat what we do for the blue lower rarity. We actually go for Truffle. So Truffle, if you don't currently have it, you just throw some Chaos Shards at Amethyrax and you'll be able to go and get it. And we're running 2 copies of him, so you would need to get 2. But basically, this is Infinite Loop Truffle. It is one of the most consistent Infinite Loops in the entire game. We're running Warden for 2 reasons. One is Greenstorm at start of battle, which hopefully you can get rolling before then. But the other is Dispel, so we can get rid of Submerge, so we don't have to deal with anything like that. Extra turn, get rid of all Submerge from the opposing team. Forest Troll is an epic, which hopefully you have laying around. It is in drop table right now if you want to go and fish for it. In Glory Keys, Gem Keys, VIP Keys, anything like that. Seal Keys. However, this is probably the hardest thing to get on the team overall, as it is not directly targetable this week, as these are always targetable from the Amethyrax faction, and this is just from spending 500 gems on the event. So the only thing you kind of have to go out of your way for if you don't already have it is Forest Troll, but this doubles the amount of green plus 3 onto the board, and this creates both brown and green. So not only is it feeding brown back into your Forest Troll, but it's creating the green not only to feed back into itself, but also get prepped for the doubling of the green. And if you are still within the first 4 turns and the enemy didn't override you, you would also still have Greenstorm within that time. So more green would be falling onto the board. You're creating green and brown. The brown is going back to Forest Troll. The Forest Troll is doubling all the green, and you just have infinite damage. If they have Submerge or something to counter it, you're just dispelling it off of Hero Class's other perk. If you happen to not have this Hero Class leveled that far, you could run Mech or something else that you might be running more often. It's mostly just important that you have Dispel on your Hero Class, but this is the only Hero Class that happens to have both Dispel and Greenstorm, which makes this team just a little bit better if you happen to have it. Otherwise, just any class that you have that has Dispel access would end up working there. As far as the other teams, so next we have the faction teams. This is both for the Tuesday faction event and for the Friday faction event. If you are going to be doing the Court of Foxes up to the 500 peer faction, or just going deep in general, it is highly advised to wait for the weekend event, assuming you're not busy on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As the Tuesday event, you're only going to have 1 day to do it, and not as many free battles. Whereas the weekend event, not only are you getting 3 times as many free battles to put towards the event, but you also have 3 days to complete it rather than 1. So if you are going to be doing a 500 peer faction for Court of Foxes or just pushing deep into Court of Foxes, it is highly advised to wait till the weekend one rather than the Tuesday one. However, since it is both a Court of Fox event and the teams are exactly the same, it is a green red restriction, though of course you're allowed to run any color hero weapon. For this first team here, we're running just a Rowan quick kill team, pretty standard. And for the higher rarity team, we are running, which is somewhat still low rarity, we're running Double Tesla and the Holy State Astra. We haven't gone to Soulforge yet, but Holy State Astra is actually in Soulforge. Overall, is it worth going every way to craft it? Probably not. However, if you really want it for your Double Tesla, there are some instances where you end up bringing it out, this being one of them, so I figured we show it here since she's in Soulforge. But yeah, she's in Soulforge this week, 50% mana start to all humans, and of course Tesla is a human. Unfortunately, Tesla is not targetable this week, but if you already have it laying around, but don't have the assisting troop, it is available this week. But Double Tesla is not. But just Double Tesla, just boosting off of all enemy armor, goes through the entirety of faction, pretty easy. Just cast this 2 to 3 times and you just auto win. 1 star just for mana accumulation. If you don't have it, just run whatever other mana accumulation option you wish to cover the rest of the colors that you are missing. And that is the team. As far as pure faction for this Tuesday or for this weekend, likely this weekend, it is just Foxfire King. We will be getting another troop on Friday that you can end up utilizing. I believe it is slightly tanky, so you could use it in first slot if you want to offset it. However, the mana accumulators in this place aren't really worth compared to just having an enchanted extra Firefox. So we're just going Foxfire King 4 times over. Though keep in mind, you could replace out, I believe, your first slot with the new faction troop that's coming this Friday and run that as your tank instead. But this ends up doing a bunch of true damage to all enemies, which is the main one you'll be choosing. And then you go and have a bunch of Fairy Fire. That's one of the benefits of having a lot of this. There's a 50% chance to infect Fairy Fire on a random enemy every time you take red. Obviously, given that you only use green-red, you're going to be taking a lot of red. We also set our banner pretty red-heavy. Literally the Court of Fox's banner from the kingdom, or from the faction. And that basically means, on average, per red that we take, we will get 2 Fairy Fires on the opposing team, meaning in about 3 reds, 4 reds or so. Actually, no, a little bit more than that. About 4 or 5 reds. No, I was right the first time. About 3 or 4 reds. You would end up Fairy Firing the entire enemy team, as they can override each other and end up hitting the same option. But within a few, you would end up getting the whole enemy team Fairy Fired, which of course means you'll be doing 50% more damage, assuming they're not immune to the Fairy Fire. And you basically just keep spamming that. And as long as you go into the final battle with at least 3 Foxfire Kings, you should be good to go. You can offset for 1 the mana accumulators. You could offset for the new Friday trip if you really want to. The mana accumulators just don't do enough, and the 1 trip coming this Friday honestly isn't worth it over just having another Foxfire King. So probably just sticking with 4 is perfectly fine, and just hope that the enemy doesn't take too many skulls on you. You might have to go out of your way for a couple. For the Spirit Fox class event, we're basically just running a nice diversity of them so that we get a little bit extra stats here. We end up getting 12 magic for having a pure Vulpacia team. However, there's another benefit for doing this. The Vulpacia hero class this week has, well, of course, always 50% mana start, but this week in particular has 20% extra stats. So if you are looking to use this for Underspire or for the class event, you do have 20% extra stats on the hero class. So if you're using a 4 times Vulpacia team, or, you know, 3 times to begin with, it might be worthwhile to set your hero, as you do have access to 50% mana start, as well as 20% extra stats this week. So it is potentially worth considering for both Underspire and for the Thursday class event if you want to go claim your 25 gems or however far you're going in it. So that is an option between all the extra magic that you get from 4 times Vulpacia, as well as the stats in general, and then the 20%. Overall, pretty nice. So you'll probably be using it over like Archmages or other things this week. As far as Underspire is concerned, of course, as we were mentioning, it's basically pure Vulpacia. One really nice thing that this has, which hopefully some people have, however, of course, is very high rarity, is Stellaryx. Stellaryx is such a gigantic leap forward compared to how good it is compared to anything else in the kingdom, as of course it is one of the 2 absurdly good full AoE troops in the game, that being Stellaryx and the Chrysathornex of the Flower Dragon. This thing's really tanky too, 30% score reduction, 55% spell reduction, really good overall, really great damage, good extra turn rate, really tanky, and it's basically the highest damage tank mythic in the game as well, while not the absolute tankiest when it comes to its traits. Relative to how much damage it does, mana accumulation, everything, it is really solid. Beyond that, we're just basically doing a little bit extra mana accumulation here. Harper has Purple Link, Soul, Summoner. Actually, this the other team did this too, but we're utilizing this too. I don't think I actually went over that when I was going over this, but there's a reason why we're using Harper and the other thing. It's the Mana Link. They both have Purple Mana Link. We also get to start with Purple Storm, which is nice too. So we're going to be going really heavy into purple, because right here we're actually +4 purple, and we have Purple Storm at start of battle if the enemy doesn't end up overriding it. So we have a lot of initial purple to feed into, of course, in this case, Stellaryx. So you can put it into any damage source that you have that is purple related from the kingdom. And then we're just using Foxfire Fang for a little bit of mana accumulation here. Keep in mind the weapon does have to be from Vulpacia, so we don't have that many options. So this or the one ring is probably the main 2 that you would use, though for both these teams I just went with the Fox Fang instead of the green ring mana accumulator option. For the other team, we're basically running something pretty similar to what you would otherwise be running for the Pure faction for this location. The main reason for this is a very accessible troop. All you have to do is throw some Chaos Shards at Quarter Foxes and you'll end up getting all the copies you need of this thing. But it also has Fairy Fire to do a little bit extra damage pressure. There's a little bit extra mana start, so you don't have to worry about setting a 20% for it. And it also ends up just doing a bunch of true damage, so you can go bypass their armor. We're using Fox Fang again for mana accumulation, though we're also using it for its summon option, as we're just using Harper here to kind of sacrifice it. We are still getting the benefit of having Purple Storm and Magic Link. However, we're mostly just going to cast it once and just kind of let it die out, and then we just keep resummoning to our first slot in order to keep having infinite tanks, and then just keep whittling them down with the double Foxfire King as this mana accumulates and tanks for your entire team. And that's pretty much the game plan for that. As far as the brown teams that you need for the Magical Beast event, oh wait, I just realized I ended up setting a blue weapon here. I meant to set the brown one here. I was trying not to mana block it. The whole premise of what I was doing here. Oh no, I forgot about that. What is the other low one? You know what I haven't used in such a long time? Such a classic. You get this just from leveling up Hero Class into Brown Mastery. This used to be so good before they added 1.5 billion explodey weapons. Back in the day, this was one of the only weapons pretty much that exploded a bunch of gems. And then they added like 40 to 50 different options, or however many they have in the game these days. Like an absurd amount. But way back when, this was like one of the only few ways to do it. And it still has some usefulness to it. It not only gives all brown allies 2 extra mana, but also has Brown Storm. So whenever you're using like a pure brown team like this, it ends up working out really good. But anyways, we're just doing this so we don't block the dragon as much. We're trying to block it as minimally as possible. Flower Dragon, just doing normal Flower Dragon things. If you happen to not have Flower Dragon, just use your best brown damage source that hits all enemies simultaneously. Obviously, it doesn't have to be Stellaryx or Flower Dragon, but if you have Stellaryx or Flower Dragon, definitely run it. And we're just running Double Pharaoh for mana accumulation, though there are a bunch of Empower options you do have access to, which the lower rarity team ends up utilizing. We're actually using Soothsayer. It has Empower into 1 extra brown mana, and we're using this just for a little bit of border control. We ends up choosing a purple, destroys in a plus shape, and gives a little bit extra magic, but we're mostly just using it for its mana accumulation. Destroys the plus shape on any one purple on the board, and does it with Empower. And combined with the Stone Link, you just get your brown mana a little bit easier. We're using a brown-red Storm just to kind of get a little bit extra mana. Once again, this is another faction troop, so you could always target it. Just throw some Chaos Shards at Fire Rift, and you'll end up getting it. Similarly, Queen Zachi, you probably have already laying around from last week's Guild War. Oh yeah, speaking of which, I should probably go over there too. We actually know what the next Guild War is. It's a pretty juicy one too. But if you still have this laying around from last Guild War, you could literally run this. You could even double up on it. Though you do kind of need a Storm option for it, so I'm kind of using Magma Dragon for that. But yeah, you can literally just use your Queen Zachi from last week and you'll be perfectly fine. Not the best damage source for it, but you know, if you already have it laying around, might as well if you don't have anything better. And ends up working out really well. So I was just mentioning Guild War. We actually can, since the other Guild War ended up finishing. It was honestly probably one of the most annoying restrictions we've had so far, similar to that of Broken Spire, because whenever it's a kingdom restriction, you don't really have that many options because you're really limited on weapon. And then of course, because not only are you restricted based on the kingdom, but you're also restricted based on the weapon. But whenever it's a troop type or a color or anything like that, you're allowed to use, you know, almost every single weapon in the game, especially when it's a troop type. However, speaking of color, next Guild War is red. Could you imagine if we got shiny Tesla? There's literally a -% chance that would ever happen. But could you imagine? Because obviously it's going to be a legend. I haven't actually double checked to see what it is. I'm not even sure if we know what it is yet in the spoiler threads. But imagine it was Tesla. It would instantly become like the strongest troop in the game. If it got like something that could use its magic or its ability being like 1 boost ratio better while having 2 lower mana costs. Oh gosh, they're obviously not going to do Tesla. Which troop they're going to do, I have no clue. But yeah, red is the strongest restriction we've had. This is now going to be the 6th Guild War coming up in 4 weeks from now. And red is definitely the strongest by far that we've ever had as far as overall mana accumulations that we have, the diversity of your teams. Your weapon will be restricted by red, but of course, this is offensive team, so you are allowed to use Wand of Stars. Wand of Stars does apply. I think this is actually the first Guild War where offensively you could use Wand of Stars. Do not use it defensively, it will get replaced with Prismatic Orb. But offensively, you are allowed to use it, and this is the first time we've actually had access to it in the new Guild War system. So, yeah, it's basically just normal red Guild War. I'm not sure if we have that in normal PvP right now, but it's literally just this, essentially. Okay, we don't have one here. But it's effectively just this had ended up having red, so, other than the Immortals. But, yeah, should be by far the easiest Guild War, best diversity. Kind of like previous Guild War in a sense, because it's basically just like Red Day Defend, or offense, I mean. It wouldn't really be any different than that. So, I guess finally after 6 weeks, we have a return to form. Well, technically another 4 weeks from now, but, you know, after 6 Guild Wars, I mean. But, yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's basically just normal Red Guild War Day, but with all the extra things we've had since, like, what, almost 2 years now since the last time we had our normal Red Guild War Day. So, yeah, I'll have to wait and see how that pans out with all the new options we've had since then. Of course, Flower Dragon also coming in within that time and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be way easier than the restrictions we've had lately, that's for sure. Anyways, other things, Soulforge. We made some brief mention on this earlier. However, I would say there's 2 things. I was briefly mentioning this. For the most part, you shouldn't be spending your diamonds on Legends. However, if you have been wanting this to go put your Tesla team together, it is available. 50% mana start to all humans. Very rarely used, but other than aside from Teslas, it's the only instance where it really gets enough value to justify using it. But potentially worth considering if you just really like running Tesla teams and that's the main option you're using at the moment. Beyond that, Voice of Orpheus, while not used that often, is pretty noteworthy, and that's the best cleanser in the game overall, aside from Beatrix. But this has a lot more immunity. It has Impervious, it has Cleanse all allies for a single yellow, and it has Cleanse on ability, something Beatrix doesn't have. If Beatrix ends up getting Stun Silence, it's in a bit of an issue because it can't end up doing anything. But this thing needs to be Curse, Stunned, and Silence before it gets completely disabled out. And a lot of teams aren't going to be running all 3 mechanics. They might run Curse Stun, which means you could go and cleanse off ability. They might run Stun Silence, which means you would have to go and do it off of trait. But very rarely are you going to see Curse, Stun, and Silence on a team. So for a lot of situations where you otherwise would be disabled and not have a cleanse option, this normally is able to, unless they're just covering every single possible ground and going for Curse, Stun, and Silence. But very, very few teams in the current state of the game have all 3. Because if they end up going for your traits, you still have ability. And if they try to end up getting like the Curse Silence or something similar, you still end up having your trait then. So overall, very, very niche. But if you desperately are allowed to in a given restriction, just desperately need cleanse, this is definitely a option to consider. Its overall ability and everything's pretty underwhelming. It's kind of similar to Famine, but in reverse, but way weaker. But overall, it's basically just the guarantee cleanse. If you don't want to use Beatrix, if you need something a little bit more consistent to bypass the stun and everything, worth potentially considering. Very, very rare. You could probably skip on it. There's better things to spend diamonds on, but it is a utility troop that you do bring out once in a blue moon ever so occasionally, so worth mentioning. Beyond that, nothing really noteworthy on weapons. Basically, just get whatever you want to build whatever teams you want. The main two that are pretty noteworthy is Foxglove, which I didn't show in any of the teams, but is an okay weapon. You get to either choose all green gems, or all of a given gem to convert to green, or you get to explode a gem and then create 10 greens. Whatever one you use basically comes down to, do you have alignment on green? If nothing can be converted into a extra turn on green, you would just do the other ability then. Biggest downside of this weapon is it itself does not use green. If this weapon used green, it would actually be a pretty solid weapon. I'm not sure top 10, but it would be like top 20, top 30 if this weapon was like green purple or green blue or literally anything with green. But unfortunately it is not, so it's very, very rarely used. You can use it for like Volpacia restrictions like this week, but if you just want the classics, Fox Fang is generally the way to go. Just pretty standard explodey weapon. Explodes a bunch of manas. Unfortunately, it has really bad perks, but you're just doing it for only this week. You wouldn't really use it outside this event. But really, really bad perks is basically just for its explode into the extra stats effects for Volpacia, as well as the backup summon. However, really good weapon for Underspire is the main thing you would run it for. It is basically you currently don't have a weapon for Underspire and need a weapon for Underspire weapon. And it's by far probably the best option you could go for out of any of the options here. Whereas Foxglove is one of those utility things that you would use outside of just a Volpacia event, but it's very niche when you bring it out. But if you're looking for just one thing to really help you with Underspire this week, it's probably Fox Fang. Worst comes to worst, you could literally win with just one Fox Fang on your team because you'd resummon an entire team. You can also summon Stellarex if you don't own it. Even if you don't own it, it is possible to summon Stellarex with this ability. And because Volpacia doesn't have a super high amount of troops, it's not that uncommon. I think it's like a 5, 6, 7% chance. I forget how many troops are in the kingdom. But you can do it even if you don't own it. It will be completely untraded and everything. But it is possible to summon a Stellarex with this thing. And at around like 5, 6% chance or so. So not that bad. And probably the main weapon you'd want to be picking up if you need help with Underspire or just to have for mana accumulation. Beyond that, what if we knock it over? That's almost everything already. PvP, still doing normal PvP stuff. Obviously, still pretty early in the season. So if you still want to be getting done any of those PvP objectives, still plenty of time. You still have a whole another 10 weeks, whole entire basically season compared to the other thing. So still plenty of time to go be poking at all of the objectives. Beyond that, event key drop table. Is it worth opening? No. However, things that are not in drop table include the 5 faction troops, technically 4 right now, but it will be 5 by this weekend. But the 5 faction troops from Court of Foxes are not in drop table, as well as the... forgetting one here. Where's the other one? The Wheel of Fortune is only in the Volkey drop table. And obviously, unfortunately, Stellarex is not in the event key drop table. It is only from doing the Cosmic Dragon eggs from Soulforge. End up crafting that there, end up getting it, and then you need to go do the 550 Cosmic eggs. You get all 6 of them, and then you go and craft the Stellarex and the weapons and everything to be able to go craft the Stellarex. But unfortunately, not in event key drop table. What does that mean as far as event key drop table? It means it is very absurdly skippable. The only reason you would really do it is because this Friday we are going to get enough troops to go get a 20-star Volpacia. There's 28 of them right now. I just deliberately left one untraded. But there are 28 right now with a 29th coming in this Friday. So one thing that this actually does, if you do have it all the way upgraded, is you would gain 1+1 permanent HP. Obviously, that's not huge, but if you did want to go and throw event keys, if you're pretty close to getting it max, but not quite all the way there, keep in mind this does require owning everything from the kingdom, including Stellarex and the Wheel of Fortune. But if you are within that striking distance and you just have a few that just aren't upgraded yet, it might be worth considering to throw the event keys for that. There's +1 extra HP permanently, you know, not that bad. You'll be able to obviously get it easier in the future, so not a big deal to try to push for it. But if you are pretty close, if you already own Stellarex, already own Wheel of Fortune, you just have like maybe missing one of these 2 mythics, might be worth it because it's about 2,000 event keys to try to get either one of them. So if that's like the only thing you're missing to try to get 20-star by this Friday, then it might be worth considering. Otherwise, basically just full skip event keys this week. It is not worth it as far as the drop table is concerned. Beyond that, of course, we did get a new Glory Troop as well. And as would be expected from a new Glory Troop, it is pretty underwhelming. As far as what it does, it has a choice mechanic, of course, like almost everything from this kingdom. Gives a bunch of life to an ally and barrier them, or create 10 gems of a chosen mana color and enchants them. The secondary effect of this is way better, so you generally want to be doing the second option of creating 10 gems of a chosen ally's color and then enchant them. However, the biggest issue with this is even if it did both of them simultaneously, you would still barely use this. If there was no choose mechanic and would just give a bunch of life to an ally, barrier them, enchant them, and create 10 of their gems, you would still almost never use this because it doesn't have Empower to be able to go do it as quickly. It does have 25% mana start, but that barely is anything over 20%, which I'm not even sure if that's an extra mana with this amount of mana. Not sure, actually, if that's one extra or not compared to 20%. It might be, actually. This might be one of the few instances where it actually does something, because it might start with 3 instead of what would otherwise be 2, so very rare that might actually get some value there. However, still would need to get 10 mana compared to an Empower that would have it immediately. And even if you did all this simultaneously, it's not amazing. Like, it would be usable if it was that way, but that's not what it does, unfortunately. All you get is 10 gems and enchant basically every time you cast it, which for that much mana cost, you have way better options that can end up doing way better overall mana accumulation. So unfortunately, this thing is just never really going to be used. Even in the context of a 4x Volpacia team, you are probably not going to be running this over just running an explodey weapon like we were showing with the Fox Fang thing earlier. That's going to be better almost every single time over bothering with that option. And beyond that, yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you guys still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. All the teams we went over are in the description if you want to go and copy paste any of them. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.